What was the very first video game you ever remember laying hands on? Well, today I received this box in the mail, and it reads Atari 2600 Pac Man Anniversary Edition VIP. Now, I'm very excited for this. If you didn't know this about me, the very first video game I ever touched was Miss Pac Man. Actually, that exact Miss Pac Man right behind me. And so today we are going to open a very special gift from my friends over at Atari. Now, very recently, Atari celebrated a very large milestone. They celebrated their 50th anniversary. Atari is the grandfather of video games. And now this year, Atari is celebrating one of the greatest video game collaborations in video game history, and that is Atari x Pac Man. Okay, now, a lot of you may not know this, but the very first time Pac Man ever came to a home video game console was the original Atari 2600.
Drop Atari Pac Man into your Atari video computer system and you're playing the hottest game since Space Invaders, Atari Pac Man.
Maybe this was the first machine you ever laid hands on. Look at that beauty though. The wood grain, the design. This was the very first home console. Okay, maybe it wasn't the very first home console because we did have the Odyssey and a couple other weird oddballs, but this was the one that ushered in home consoles, the Atari 2600. And the very first home console to ever get Pac-Man was the Atari 2600. So let's take a look. I gotta tell you first off, Atari, this packaging is stellar. I don't know if it looks familiar, right? Sort of like a whole Pac-Man, you know, without the... It's awesome. I love this packaging, but really it's what's inside that counts. So let's open it up and take a look, shall we? Oh, I'm so ready for this. I wish there was steam coming out of it right now. Look at that box set. Holy, I shouldn't cuss, crap. That is presentation right there. Look at that. Look at the design there of, oh, it's got all the ghosts. It's got the dots. It's got the map. It's got a console underneath there. All right, let's open it up and see exactly what's underneath, shall we? Wow. Okay, let's break this down real quick. As you saw just a moment ago, this is the original Atari 2600. And you might be asking yourself, what exactly is this? Well, this here is the Atari 2600 Plus. This is a modern day recreation of the original Atari 2600 with some obvious improvements. First off, we have HDMI, so you can plug it into your modern TV. We also have USB-C power, so now you can just plug your USB-C charger into it. Your iPhone cable works to power this thing. It's modernized, but it is 100% backwards and forwards, which we'll get to in a minute, compatible. That means if you have old 2600 or 7800 cartridges like I do, you see my copy of Miss Pac Man here, my copy of Dig Dug. These actually just pop right in the console and you can play all of your old games, all your 2600 games, all your 7800 games on this new modern console. So now let's take a good look at some of the features of this thing. Of course, just like the original, you have your controller ports and you have your dip switch selections. Now, on the modern console, you have a dip switch for 3x4 or 16:9. So if you want to play in that old 3x4 format, you totally can, even when you're plugged into HDMI. On the front here, we have a lot of the same functions that we used to have on the original 2600. You have your obvious power button, but you have black and white. This was a feature that was on the original 2600. So if you had a black and white TV, you could play it in black and white. And if you had a color TV, you can switch it and play it in color. The other options are Game Select and Game Reset. Now, on the original 2600, you used to also have a knob that selected difficulty. This would allow you to change the difficulty in the game. You actually still have that function here, except it's now a dip switch on the back. And you might already be telling yourself, yeah, well, Atari already made a 2600 Plus. They did, but not like this. This is the Pac Man edition. This is to celebrate that age-old partnership between Atari and Namco Bandai for Pac Man, because, like I said, this was the very first home console Pac-Man ever came to. Before that, that was the only way that you could play Pac-Man, which wasn't a bad way. But this really celebrates that partnership. And just look at the color. This has got to be one of the best looking retro modern consoles I think I've laid eyes on in a very long time. But let's take a look at the controllers. Atari has sent over 2 of their 5 colorways. Obviously, 1 for every single color ghost, and 1 in yellow for, you know, Pac-Man himself. And you might be wondering, well, where are the cables to these? Well, that's because they're wireless via a dongle. And the really cool thing is, like I said, forwards and backwards compatible. You could buy these controllers separately. In fact, you can buy the whole set of 5 if you want all the colors. They come with these wireless dongles, and these wireless dongles will work on your original Atari 2600 or 7800. So if you already have the console and you don't want to buy the new one, you don't have to. You can just buy the new wireless controllers. And also, I should point out that it does come with a USB dongle as well, in case you want to use these awesome new wireless controllers on your PC. You can do that. And they're also USB-C in case you want to charge it, or you want to plug it in direct to your PC. You can do that. It also looks as though Atari has sent me over this really cool pin set celebrating Pac-Man. All 4 ghosts are present with, of course, again, Mr. Pac Man. And, of course, the collection wouldn't be complete without a copy of Pac Man. And this is actually a 7800 cartridge, but on this cartridge is the 2600 and 7800 version of Pac Man. If you're familiar with the Atari versions of Pac Man, the 2600 was a very retro-inspired version of Pac Man. Not super faithful to the arcade because of the limitations of the console at the time. But by the time the 7800 came around, the 7800 absolutely looked very similar to what you would get in an arcade. And with this one cartridge, you can actually select between which version of the game you want to play. Because, once again, the Atari 2600 Plus takes 7800 cartridges and 2600 cartridges. Also, did I mention that Atari is producing new games on cartridge for the 2600 and 7800? If you don't remember the video I did about this time last year of the 7800 Plus limited edition Atari sent me, you should totally check that video out. The link is right here. Now, just for fun, let's go to Atari's website and see exactly what they have to say and the breakdown of this beautiful console. And I will say this is a special bundle that they are sending out to a few people. I don't know that this one itself is purchasable, but they do have a few bundles. One being the yellow limited edition console with 1 yellow controller and the game. And then there are tons of variations of that console bundle. A brand new version of an iconic console in Pac Man Yellow with illuminated characters across the front. Play retro games just like you remember them on a system upgraded for today with HDMI output and backwards and forwards compatibility. It also includes an all-new Pac Man double feature, which is the cartridge I showed you. That's a 2-in-1 cartridge and a Pac Man edition Atari CX40 Plus joystick, which is these wireless joysticks that I just showed you as well. Now let's touch real briefly on the overview, because I do think this is important. The Atari Cross Pac Man collection celebrates a long history of collaboration between Atari and Pac Man creator Bandai Namco. In honor of the original video game romance that brought Pac Man to home consoles for the first time on the Atari 2600, we've infused every part of the collection with Pac Man style. Introducing colorful ghost joysticks, a yellow Atari 2600 Plus console, and an all-new Pac Man game, and more. There's something for every Atari and Pac Man fan. Real quick on the features, backwards and forwards compatibility plays both Atari 2600 and 7800 game cartridges. Like I said, I have a ton of those in my collection. A limited edition version of Pac Man Yellow with illuminated characters across the front. The illumination looks that's a genius touch, Atari. I think it looks so beautiful, especially sitting on your shelf while you're playing it. It includes Pac Man Double Feature 2-in-1 game cartridge, featuring an all-new arcade-style version, Pac Man 7800, and the very first home version of the game, Pac Man 2600. It also includes the CX40 Plus wireless joystick, Pac Man Edition. It includes a HDMI output for easy connection for your new TVs, a widescreen mode, which is the toggle I was showing you, and an enlarged cartridge socket, which reduces sticking. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, the cartridge slots in the Atari 7800s especially stuck a lot. This is designed to not do that. Now, the set with one joystick, console, and game is now available for pre-order on Atari.com. In fact, I think they're probably shipping now. The MSRP is $169.99, $170 for that collection. I think is a very fair price, especially if you have a very large Atari 2600 and or 7800 cartridge collection, because this will play all of those and it will play them on your modern TV, which is awesome. And I gotta tell you, as somebody who grew up with Atari, I think collections like this are absolutely stellar. Full transparency, Atari did send this over to me. Again, I don't know that this is something that Atari is selling to the public, but from the very bottom of my heart, thank you very much, Atari, for sending this over to me, especially considering this Mrs Pac Man machine right here. The answer to the question that I asked in the beginning is that. That was the very first video game I ever laid hands on. And I don't mean just Mrs Pac Man, I mean that machine. It belonged to my grandfather when I was a kid, and I grew up with this machine at his house. When he passed, it was left to me, and that there really is what sparked all of this. That is what sparked all of my interest and passion for this hobby, for this industry. So a package like this really does mean a lot to me, and I think it's really fantastic that these companies are getting together and releasing new and exciting ways for us to explore the libraries that we already own in new ways, and ways for us to be able to share this with the next generation of gamers, like our kids and our grandkids. So that is the Atari Cross Pac Man Limited Edition Yellow 2600 Plus bundle. Atari, I think you guys did a fantastic job, but I want to hear from you. What do you think? Did you grow up playing Atari? Is this something you would be interested in? Maybe you want to show your kids your skills at Pac-Man. Hit the comments below and let me know what you think. And don't forget, my friends, as cool as stuff like this is, it really is all about the journey. And you should absolutely share the things you love with the ones that you love.